first step to painting up the mechanics of an Adeptus Titanicus Titan, like the Reaver Titan I have here, is of course to prime the miniature. For this particular project, I'm using Chaos Black from Games Workshop's Citadel line of paints, and I'm using my 3D printed priming tool, which you can find a link to purchase that down in the show notes of this video. Let's just jump right into painting our new Reaver Titan from Adeptus Titanicus. So welcome to this series of videos where I'll focus on kind of one part of the miniature in each video. I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield, and to start this series off, I'm going to work on the mechanical parts of the miniature. So you kind of think of all the actuators, the structure, and things like that. For the bulk of this video, I'm going to be using an artificial layer small brush. And the first step to applying the paint is to apply some sort of base gray layer. For my project, I'm using Dawnstone Gray from Games Workshop's Citadel line of paints. And I'm going to apply maybe 3 or 4 layers of thin down gray paint. And one note here is you don't have to completely cover the entire miniature. You can leave some black or some darker gray showing. It's all trying to get that kind of worn down, battle hardened look that's been a part of a war machine for thousands of years. Sometimes if I feel that the paint I'm applying is too thick when it already goes on the miniature, I take my brush, dip it in some water, and just put the water right over the paint I just applied to the miniature, and it thins things out pretty good. I'm also not too worried about getting paint over some of the armor or carapace, because right now I'm just working on the mechanical stuff. It is helpful that between layers, you do let the paint dry. If you don't let them dry, oftentimes what happens is you just end up pushing paint around instead of adding a second layer of paint. Alright, so I'm done with 3 layers of thin down gray paint. Let's let this dry. Now we're going to apply some highlights to the mechanical area. In this case, I've taken a little bit of white. For me, I'm using Linen White from Reaper's Master Series, and I've mixed that into the Dawnstone Gray to get a little bit of a brighter color. Now I'm not doing dry brushing, but I'm only using a very small amount of paint on my brush. I'm going to look for areas that I think would be kind of raised or would catch light, and apply a little bit of this brighter gray paint to those areas. Now it's one of the real fun steps. I'm bringing out some shade. This is Citadel's Nun Oil. This is the non-gloss version. And I'm going to apply this to all the various areas of the mechanics that look like there might be some grease or dirt or things like that. So kind of along the inside edges of lips, down in recesses, all that kind of stuff. Because the goal is simply to add some contrast to the miniature. And by doing that, your eye is able to pick out the detail a lot better. And for this step, I'm jumping over to my artificial layer extra small brush. As you apply this paint, kind of spread it out from where you initially apply it to blend it into the base coat. If you don't do that, you'll often be able to see a very clear line of demarcation between the base coat color and the color of the shade. Now it's time to start adding the metal in the mechanical parts of this particular miniature. The first layer is going to be Lead Belcher from Citadel's line of paints. This is kind of a darkest silvery metallic gray. And I'm going to apply this over not all of the mechanical areas, but quite a bit of it to give it a little bit of a metallic sheen. With this layer, I'm only going to be applying a very small amount of paint on my brush at a time. And I'm going to be going back to my artificial layer small brush. It's time to add some more bright shininess, if that's kind of a phrase that I can use. I'm going to be moving over to using Stormhost Silver. This is a bright silver paint from Games Workshop's Citadel line of paints. I'm going to mix that in with the Lead Belcher a little bit to get it a little bit brighter color, and then apply more of that over the miniature, just like what I did with the Lead Belcher, but apply less of it in fewer spots. Kind of focusing on some of the raised areas and edges and things like that. Now it's time to make things a little bit interesting. I like what I've got here, but it's all kind of, well, gray. So I'm going to introduce a new color in here. It's going to be a tarnished gold look to add a nice contrast to all the metallic look I've got going on right now. But before I add gold, to get the tarnished look, I want to apply a base coat of a brown color. In this case, I will be using Rhinox Hide from Games Workshop Citadel line of paints. I'm going to kind of be applying this to any of the areas that I want to kind of stand out, whether it be these little rivets that are all over the miniature, end caps of some of the actuators and hoses, and things like that. With the brown layer of paint down, I'm going to move on to the gold. I'm going to do the same kind of thing we just did, so cover up most of the brown with the gold, but not all of it. You do want to leave a little bit of it visible. On my miniature, I'm using Greedy Gold from the Army Painters War Painter series. Only a few more steps of painting this miniature. The first is to kind of give the illusion there's a little bit of rust built up in some of the surfaces. For this, I'm going to be using Oak Brown from the Army Painters War Paint series. This particular color is a little bit lighter than the Rhinox Hide, but still a fairly dark brown color. Using the Artificer Layer Extra Small brush, just apply this in a few small areas on the mechanicals of the miniature. And when applying this layer, apply only a very small amount of paint. To add a little bit more variety to the rust color, I'm now applying Leather Brown, which is a slightly lighter color than Oak Brown, and it's also from the Army Painters War Paint series. So I completely forgot, I have a nice actual sample of rust. In this case here, these are the water jet cut blades for Microflash Gamma, my 3-pound combat robot. You can find the build log here on my YouTube channel. And because they are AR-500 steel and water jet cut, they rusted around the edges where the cut occurred. So there's actually a bit of a orangish tint to the rust. I need to add that as well to this miniature. I'm taking a very small amount of Troll Slayer Orange from Games Workshop Citadel line of paints, and I'm kind of mixing that in with both the Oak Brown as well as the Leather Brown, just to get a bit of an orange tint to those two colors. And then apply this color very sparingly. It's this orange tint that'll kind of sell the fact that it's rust and not just mud or dirt. Only one more color step and then it'll be wash time. Now for those of you who watched the build video of this particular miniature, I had a heck of a time with losing parts. One of the parts I lost was the outside kneecap to the left leg right here. So the solution was to make it look like it's battle damage. So now I need to paint it like it's battle damage. I'm just taking some Abaddon Black, and I'm going to kind of apply that almost in a dry brush-like manner, just to make it seem like it's charred and wrecked and, burned, something like that. Okay, got 2 layers of wash to apply. We're going to first start with Seraphim Sophia on Games Workshop Citadel line of paints. Did I say Sophia? I meant Sophia. So this particular wash is going to be applied to the gold areas, as well as the rust and the areas right around the rust. For the final wash, I'm going to be using Citadel Shade's non-oil gloss this time. So this is kind of the shiny version of their black shade. And just like we did the first time when we applied the normal version of non-oil gloss, I want to try to work this into recesses, next to kind of raised edges, and anywhere where I want to add some contrast to the miniature to pull out detail. So once that wash has dried, let's call this particular video for painting the Reaver Titan complete. Once again, I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield, and if you want to get the latest videos in this series, go ahead and subscribe here on YouTube and turn on notifications. Over the next few weeks, I'll probably be releasing 4 more videos in this series, maybe actually 5, with the next one featuring how to paint up the armor panels, as well as some of the markings and details on the carapace, and then we'll dive into each of the weapons individually and finally work on the base. So thank you guys all for watching, and have a good week.